Hani Bojo. I want to take the time right now to acknowledge that Ryerson and Toronto are on the traditional territories of the Mississaugas of the Credit, the Anishinaabe, the Haudenosaunee, and the Wendat, and is now home to many diverse First Nations, Inuit, and Métis peoples. And it is also the Dish with One Spoon territory. To introduce myself, my name is John Paye. I'm a photographer and I am Anishinaabe of Boston First Nation, Chimnasing. And I'm here to interview the amazing Nadia and the work that Nadia has done over the years and the mural that is going to be going up at Ryerson, or that is now up. So if you want to introduce yourself.
Yeah, sure. Bonjour, my name is Nadia Kwandabens. I'm from the Nipmuc 37 First Nation in northwestern Ontario, and I am a photographer for Redworks.
Who and what inspired this piece, this mural?
Okay. This is a piece that is part of a larger series called Concrete Indians. And I initially started this series as a way to sort of reinvigorate my own creativity, but to also instill a sense of unity and community amongst the Indigenous population, not only in Toronto, but I always think on a large scale. And at the time, I had already been touring all across Canada and parts of the States as well. So I knew that this series would sort of resonate with Native people like across Turtle Island. And it definitely has. So it was started in the spring of 2008. And it's sort of slowed down now that my focus has turned to, other series work, but it's still definitely a series that resonates today.
And how did you pick, I guess, this mural or choose this image for this? Or was it chosen by Ryerson, or was it chosen by you? And what made you photograph that person in the beginning?
It was actually chosen by Ryerson.
Okay.
So I was really, I wasn't surprised because that particular image has been licensed out so many times for different publications, different exhibitions. It gets licensed out quite frequently. Yeah. So it wasn't a surprise that they chose that one. But what's interesting though is I recently, recent being the past 4 years, started reconverting them back to their color originals. Mm-hmm. I didn't shoot them in black and white, but the intention was for them to be in black and white. Just because I thought that was a real interesting sort of, aesthetic sort of usage of the format. When you think of black and white, historically, you think of the images of Edward S. Curtis, for example. So to just sort of bring that format into the contemporary and frame our people as we are today. But I started reconverting some of them back to their color originals because it just adds this whole different spect to them, and it sort of it brings back like a lot of vibrancy and life into the work.
Well, a lot of regalia has lots of color in it, and in this image, just different colors that stand out when the image is in.
So I'm really happy with how it turned out. So Ryerson chose that black and white version, and a lot with actually all of my portrait series work. I decided to base it all on an open call concept. So I actually didn't choose the woman photographed either. It was her idea to go there. It was her idea to go and dressed in full regalia. So I find there's a lot of, I find it really empowering for all of my series for it to be based that way.
Yeah.
Because I'm not guiding what's photographed, and it sort of gets to the core of what my photography is really founded in as well. It is improvisation. I don't know what's going to happen during a shoot or where we're going. I have a general idea of the location, but I leave that up to whoever is being photographed, you know, because they want to be comfortable. They want to, you know, have some sort of, you know, input into it. It's not up to me to, you know, to stage anything.
And did you find from the get-go there's a lot of support for the series? Were there a lot of people volunteering to be photographed? And...
Yeah, like pretty much right off the hop. I ended up launching the series from my couch by email. And I sent this email out to like all of my friends and some acquaintances I had met like through my travels, you know, all of that, all of those people. And as soon as I hit send, I was like, oh, you know when you launch something, it's like, I don't know what, I'm kind of nervous, I don't know what's gonna happen. I'm sending that out into the ethos, man, the indigenous ethos, the cosmos. And what ended up happening is I got so many replies back, like boom, boom, like one after the other that afternoon. I remember that afternoon so clearly, and because it was my first series ever, for it to be, you know, received that way, just right off the top, was really exciting. And the ideas that came back, because in the initial email, the launch email, I asked, you know, what does it mean to be Indigenous in the city to you? How does being away from your community and your homeland, your home territories, how does it feel? What does it look like? Well, how do you stay in touch, you know, with who you are? What does decolonization look like? You know, concepts like that. And immediately the responses came back, and there's so many ideas, but T. Lynn Duke, the woman photographed, although her name was Kopanex at the time. Her idea was really intriguing to me, because like I really wanted to go down into the TTC, the subway station, and during rush hour. Right?
It's a busy spot.
Yeah. So I'm really excited with her idea.
And how long did that photo take to get?
It actually was a couple years after I'd launched it. And I can't remember, like I was probably traveling, but eventually we got together in 2010, I think, like, yeah, almost 2 years after the launch. And it didn't take long. I always had this, and she wanted to be in the TTC, right?
Yeah.
So I was like, I know exactly where we should go for this. Yeah. So the actual shoot didn't take that long. I mean, my photo shoots are really quick. Really quick. Like sometimes people will be like, oh, can I book you for an afternoon? And I'm like, probably won't take that long, but okay, if you want. But they're really quick, they're dynamic, it's all improvised. I mean, I didn't know I knew it was going to be rush hour, right? And I knew I was going to photograph it long exposure. So we were there, I think maybe half an hour, maybe a half hour, just waiting for, you know, the rushes of the pedestrians on that along that corridor, right? So just getting a mix of these waves of pedestrians coming and going, and then it took a while to get my settings like fine-tuned. So yeah, about a half hour And then I had a friend of mine do behind the scenes stills.
Okay.
Or not stills, he actually did video too. And then a couple other friends just kind of tagged along. And they're actually in some of the the pedestrian background walking. Yeah.
And people walking by, did anyone say anything like, this is cool or anything like that?
Most people, I think, were concerned with just getting home, right? But quite a few actually stopped and took photos. Took photos on their phones. And I had to stop a couple of people. I said, you should ask permission of the person photographed before you do that, right? Because this is her regalia. It's something sacred to her. And I could definitely feel that power in it. When are you going to see a woman in full jingle dress in the middle of the city in the subway station?
So it was almost like a learning experience for some people and how to treat Indigenous people in regalia.
I think so. And then actually a couple natives would be coming into the background too, and they'd be like, I actually got a few shots of some of their reactions too, like, whoa, hey, and they were just really friendly, wanting to say hi, like, where are you from, all this. That actually tacked on a little more time to the shoot, so maybe about 40 minutes the whole thing was, but it was really empowering to be there. And listening to her jingles in the distance as I was setting up, right? Listening to her jingles coming down, those stairs, and hearing them get louder and louder as she was approaching. Oh, it was so. This is definitely one of the most memorable photo shoots that I've had.
Awesome. Yeah. And that collection of how many people have you photographed for that? Do you know offhand?
Oh man. I think there's about 25.
Okay.
20 under 30.
Okay.
Close to 30 portraits in the whole series. I actually photographed them in sets of 3s.
Okay.
But only one official one is in the series itself. I always make sure to get extra shots in case I need like a close-up detail, or you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or a different angle, the different orientation, landscape, portrait. I always try and get a mix.
Yeah.
So I pick from those when I'm reviewing.
It's a good idea to have those options.
Oh yeah.
When after the shoot, you're like, and then.
And if one's too blurry, it's like no.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I always shoot extras.
Yeah.
It's like a big rule.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
How does the medium of photography allow you to communicate your message to your audience? And like other words, like, why do you do what you do? Like, why do you do photography?
I started Redworks photography in 2008. Actually, after the series launched, like officially started Redworks, like putting a name to it, putting a name to what I do, and really thinking about why it is and what it is I do, right? And I thought that it's important for artists, visual artists, and for me, photography is important. Representation is important. That's what I mean. And for me, it's such an intimate process. One of the people in the community that I greatly admire once said to me, she said, Nadia, what you do is essentially visiting. All you do is visit with people, and that's so important, like within our communities, to spend time with others and share our stories, and that's essentially what it is for me, is visiting and allowing the space for our people to share their stories and to document it in a way such as photography. It's such a, you're in the moment, and you're completely aware and with someone, right? You're aware of your surroundings, where you find yourself, where you are right now, and it's such, to me, it really is such an intimate process. And of course, always asking, where are you from? Who's your mom? What's your friend? You gotta answer. You ask those, right? To develop that sort of, relation with other people. And so to me, it's important to, get all that, and spending time with people. I think it's just naturally something that I'm drawn to anyway, just given just how I am. I'm super Gemini, so it's just super easy for me to do that, and make people feel comfortable and open and at ease, and all tensions released, all nervousness, that sort of thing. I find it's such a, I love it. I love what I do, and I realized that I could make a living off of RedWorks simply by just being with peeps, man, figuring, traveling all over the place. It's been a really great honor, privilege to be able to do this work. And when you think of how old photography is, I don't know how old it is. When was the first photograph taken? I know some of the first moving pictures taken were of Indians, right? You ever see that footage of Indians dancing in I think it was some nation down in the so-called United States, right? But when I think of how old photography is, hundreds of years from now, people will look back and at some of RedWorks, right? And your works as well. You've been doing some really amazing work, your Australian series. What's it called? Contact?
Contact.
I love that. I love that. Right? So there's so many photographers out there doing, such similar work. So.
Well, it's important, I think, too, that it's Indigenous people creating this content, and representing us, by us, for us, kind of thing. And I think that's kind of what you do. You're making your images, for Indigenous people. It's for our own community.
Yeah, my audience all along the way, I guess, is sort of developed into an audience, for them. But for me, it's always been for us, right?
Yeah.
To be able to see each other in the same light, to be able to connect and relate to each other. Yeah, RedWorks, man. That's why I named RedWorks what it is because that's our peeps. Those are our people. Yeah. And I wanted my work to sort of combat that misrepresentation that's portrayed in the media, right? It's not that. That's far from what and who we actually are. Look at these instead, right? So.
And it's not even just fighting against certain images thing. I think it's just having images. For so long, there just hasn't been anything really, and it's just a good way. I think it was who's the photographer that has the photo?
Oh, Tennille.
Oh, Tennille. Yeah.
Yeah.
One of the things that Tennille had said was it's important to have high quality professional photos of Indigenous people out there for other Indigenous people to see. Just seeing our own people represented in such a high quality way is very important. And I think that's kind of a lot of the work that you do. It's creating these images of people, of Indigenous people across Canada that we haven't really seen before, I guess, in a way. Especially with this mural, having one blown up this big, for people
I
to
think
see.
it's the largest I've ever. Well, I haven't seen it yet, but I will.
Yeah.
We don't know when the mural will be up by the time this goes to air,
Yeah.
or goes online, and that will have been the largest that I've ever seen my work in sort of like tangible, you know. But the print is right, it's there, right? It'll be the largest, and I'm really excited about that. Redworks is sort of, and some of my other work has also been on billboards, but I've never seen. I've seen, you know, photo. I've never actually seen them, but yeah, it'll be. I can't wait.
Go take your selfie in front of it.
Yeah. I think T Lynn, the one who's photographed, T Lynn Duke. I think she might be joining us for installation day.
Oh, amazing. That's exciting.
We're definitely gonna ham up and get as much footage as we can. Like, what's this gonna happen again, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so we're both pretty stoked.
Yeah, that's awesome. What do you hope this particular art piece communicates to both Indigenous and non-Indigenous people?
I think what ended up happening, sort of once I was reviewing my shots, like in Lightroom, and I started flagging and picking out, you know, once I started reviewing, the sort of deeper meaning and message behind it didn't come until then. I mean, when I was shooting it, I was like, you know, all you gotta do is get the shot, right? But when afterwards, when I was reviewing, I realized how much the pedestrian flow, they look like ghosts, right? And you see her, like, she's just perfectly still, and to me that really sort of resonated with me. And ultimately what I think, what the piece means for me, is that, you know, amongst the sort of rush and chaos, but then also that sort of overlap of them also looking like ghosts, to me it sort of feels like she's both in the past, right? But she's also, you know, with all this chaos going on, right? It almost feels like she's in this whole other world to me, and that she's both in the past and the future, right? But the picture itself, you know, it's representative of, you know, that one moment, right? To sort of have, you know, all these different timelines in my head happening, right? I mean, the future is right now, and again, it's right now, right? So, you know, that sort of flow of time and presence and movement, constant movement, but her being so still in the shots, like she's frozen, right? She's, you know, to me represents that, you know. And then I started like thinking really like more deeper about it, and then I was like, it sort of like came to me at the time. I was like, well, she's still, right? She's still there, right? And her representing, you know, Anishinaabe, her culture, and her as an Anishinaabe Kwe, right? And an Ojibwe woman. She's still there. She's still here, right? You know, all these different past, future, and present references. I think what ultimately is how I interpret it. I mean, there's so many other people can interpret it how they want, but that's to me what it represents and what it means to me. And it's powerful. I mean, I still get goosebumps whenever I talk about it, and when I think back on the actual session, it was really, really powerful and empowering for her as well. I mean, to stand there, you know, like you can see how proud she is, right?
What does it mean to have your art showcased like this at Ryerson?
I don't know, I always go back to sort of like the original intent behind not only Concrete Indians, but since then, all of my other series work is to amplify and highlight, spotlight Indigenous spaces. And when you think about, cities, it's like, oh, it's like, concrete and all that. You never think that this was actually Indigenous land, and this is Indigenous land. So to spotlight that in the work, and to have this portrait serve as a sort of reminder of that, I think is really significant. And the building itself, it's a high traffic area from what I understand. I haven't really been there, but to have this work up for a younger generation of learners, coming up, going through the education system and their studies, right? To have that be seen for the next few years or so. I don't know how long it's going to be up. I can't remember, but to have that up, I think is really significant.
Yeah, especially
to presence Indigenous peoples within territory that is inherently theirs, right?
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I think it's important, like you said, a reminder that this is still Indigenous land, and I think for a lot of young students coming from reserve or smaller communities, sometimes it's a scary, experience going into a new city, a big city that's different. And I think having that reminder of like, this is Indigenous land, like you are welcome here, like this is your space, you have every right to be here.
Yeah.
I think it's.
They'd be like walking by and do like the head nod, the Indian,
yeah.
the native head nod that we do, or like the fist solidarity fist.
Yeah. That could be the new thing at Ryerson.
Yeah. Yeah, T-Lin's gonna be famous on campus.
How long have you been working as a professional artist, and how did you get into it originally?
I've been a professional photographer for 14 years. Yeah. And initially it was a hobby. So I've actually been shooting for longer than that, since 2000. So
20 years?
yeah, I can't believe that. And then I picked it up more as a hobby 16 years ago.
Okay.
So I guess, I've been just sort of, I had been developing, I guess my style, I don't know, familiarizing myself, and I've always shot Canon, right? So actually, no, I lied. I started black and white on I think it was a Pentax.
Okay.
Yeah. But I've always been creative and expressive in some way. So when I picked up the camera, it was exciting for me. I ended up getting into photography, sort of. I actually did film studies in Thunder Bay, at a college in Thunder Bay. It was really hands-on program, and I don't think I was ready for it. Like, I should have taken a year, like after high school, and a little break, and then gotten into it. But I went straight from high school, so I was like, I think it was like 17, and I wasn't ready for it.
Yeah.
So I sort of kind of put that aside for a bit, and then actually ended up getting work as a videographer with the Bajamajig theater group in Wiki. So I was doing work with them, and then I got into radio. I worked at CBC Radio for a while, like a 3-year internship. And then I just all of a sudden picked up, my internship was done, picked up and moved to Arizona to live with my partner at the time. So it was actually there I started to, sort of focus solely on photography. And writing. I did some writing as well. And then my partner at the time also really encouraged me to get into portrait work, so that's really where it picked up. As soon as I decided that, it was just like it was just go. I was getting bookings from like I lived in just outside of Phoenix, Tempe, and I had some native friends in the area, and then they were all creative. It was an artist community, right? Artist sort of circle, and then sort of word kept getting out. It felt like to be a part of the start of a movement like that.
Yeah.
It was really it was fun. I loved it. And like I said, people started recognizing the portraits and my style, I guess. So I really don't know if I like that word. I don't know how else to describe it though. And then I started, my relationship had fallen apart, and I ended up moving back home to Canada. And from there, I started getting bookings from different event organizers, different organizations, groups all over the place. So it just really didn't stop for quite a while. I think I toured from like 2007 to just a few years ago, probably around 2017, maybe 18 is when it kind of slowed down.
Do you have kind of a specific image or like a certain moment where it was kind of like you knew that's what you wanted to do? Like you did a shoot with somebody and you're like, that was amazing. Like this is only what I want to do for the rest of my life, kind of thing.
It wasn't any specific shoot. I don't think. No. I knew I loved what I was doing. I think it was just this sort of gradual sort of build up. I don't know how else.
Yeah.
It wasn't like it wasn't like, hey, I'm gonna do this now.
Yeah.
It was sort of okay, I don't know, it's sort of like struggles you go through as an artist.
Yeah.
Definitely a lot of struggles, man. I remember once eating like rice for a month, crab dinner, the noodle packets, like couldn't make rent, couldn't pay my bills, all this, and there were waves of that, man.
Yeah.
So like sort of finding like a sort of solid footing, right? It came over time. But and then forming, entitling what I do, actually, giving it a name. Okay, this is Redworks, right? Just sort of developed from there, and it became not easier. I don't know what the right word is there, but it's just something that I naturally sort of like strive towards. If you're an artist, you want to make a living out of it.
Yeah.
Pays your bills. Something that you love doing. Like I said before, it's an honor and privilege. And it also comes with a lot of responsibility as well. Just because of a lot of the people that I meet, they've shared so much with me, and my archives, like backup after, you know what I mean? And I actually have to do this, is categorize everything, keyword everything, because when I die, right? what the heck is gonna happen? I don't want, you know, like it being in the hands of, you know, I want it to be, you know, secured and taken care of, you know, like I do everything in life, right? You know, I gotta take care of all of that. So I'm hoping to spend this winter, like fall and winter, just categorizing and keywording everything, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It can take a lot of time, but it's a good way, you know, doing that, going back through and doing that work kind of refreshes yourself on like the images you've taken, and also looking at images that maybe at the time weren't your favorite, but then now seeing them in a different way almost. It can be the whole thing of like, oh wait, why didn't I like this one as much? And like now I love it. Kind of.
Yeah, I really love that too. I spend a lot of time actually in my archives fulfilling image licensing requests. So yeah, I often go back and be like, where was this? When was this? You know what I mean? It's like, wow, I didn't know.
Sometimes you
just
completely
like,
forget about a shoot.
You swipe through, or you know what I mean? They don't get flagged, they
Yeah.
don't get edited, you know, stuff like that.
Yeah.
But I get a lot of people too on social media, you know, on Facebook. It's on this day, those memories pop up. A lot of people sort of tag me in those, and I'm like, what? Holy, that was 10 years ago? What the? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like, wow, and you can see how much your style has changed, right? Your editing, my editing has certainly changed over the years. But yeah, I'm really looking forward to spending some time with my body of work and sorting through everything. And I still want to make like this, you know, epic coffee table book, right? Of all of my work, or should it be just one, or just everything? You know, like all these, like I need help, right? Like curating it down. Yeah. So that's like what, 20 years of photography. Yeah.
We mentioned like your style a couple times, like, and you said you're not sure if that's the exact word to do it. Is it just something that just kind of happened? Because I know when I see photographs, I can tell whether it's something you've done or something another Indigenous photographer's done. So I think people do have different styles, and yours is definitely very recognizable, at least to me. Is that something that just kind of happened? Did you kind of work on it, or?
I think it's, you know, just the way that I see things, right? And for me, what I love doing, especially lately, is really just sort of playing with color, you know, color treatments. I love boosting specific colors in editing, right? So it's not a dark room, or, you know, it's not manipulating, you know, hands-on, you know, something, right? As a photographer, you know, that's what the practice is, right? But in editing in the digital age, that's such a weird thing to say. I love being able to, you know, play with different, you know, the curves, the tone, you know, the highlight, you know, all of this sort of thing. But I don't actually do too much. My main thing is I love color, and specifically boosting certain colors. You know, adding a little pop to it. I love doing that, but I don't really do too much else.
As an artist, what's kind of been a challenge for you, even like more recent kind of times?
I think overall, one of the hardest things for me is staying not inspired, but staying creative, especially in a time as uncertain as this. You know, the pandemic, the whole situation is just like, what's gonna happen? Oh my God, like my career is gonna, you know what I mean? So that's been the hardest thing, is just staying creative. And that has happened so many times over the years too. I get stuck. If I do too many, say, if I'm traveling too much, or if I'm shooting at like a different event, event after event after, it's someone else's, project. It's someone else's, what they need to get out there, sort of thing. And it's all important. It's all amazing. I'm glad to be a part of it. That's not the point. The point is that I get really tired. And traveling 10 months out of the year, with the exception of this year, this is the longest I've ever stayed in one place. So I'm just like, I'm going crazy here. So developing new series work to sort of ease in back into like creative zone is always good. So just stay creative, I think. And the most recent series that I launched, people in the city have been really, I want to be a part of it. So being able to give back to the community, Indigenous community, through a new series was like, hey, this sounds awesome for me, for you, for for the community. It was like a win-win-win all around. So that was really, and it's still going on. Like I took a little break the past week. I think it's been a week. But I imagine the series continuing throughout the fall, and sourcing organizations in the community and outreach workers, frontline workers. How can I help these people that are putting their lives at risk, that are so tired? Like if I'm tired, imagine how that community must feel. So being able to help in that way, instead of like charging session fees for my work, to have participants send donations through Portrait a session with me is awesome.
I was just about to bring that up because I know when we did a shoot, it was recommended to bring a sleeping bag to the Friendship Center. So it's a great way to give back, not just to people that you're photographing, but the community, the community's needs and everything.
Yeah, it goes like this, and then outward, and then there's so many people that have taken part and who still want to take part. So I'm stoked.
Talking about like doing series, I think you had said that it took a while for you to like kind of do your first series. Kind of you get distracted by work, and kind of it's like a way to keep creative. What was it kind of that got you to like get your first series going? What was like, how long did it take, and what was the reason behind it?
Well, initially it was, just that. Like I felt so tired. I think I'd been touring at that point for about 8 years, something like that. I can't remember. It all feels like one big lump of time that I was like out all over the country, all over the, you know what I mean? It's just like, and I'll get people like, hey, it's nice to see you again, good to see you, and I'm like, I can't remember where we met, I'm sorry, it must have been at this event, or you know what I mean? Like I'm trying to remember why I was in a certain city. But to be able to, to do the work is important, and it gives me something, right? But at the same time, it's really tiring. And I found that, I was sort of losing a tiny bit of, passion for it, right? And I needed something that just sort of reinvigorated. And it didn't take long to launch. I mean, I think I did my first shoot after the launch. Like, I think it was a week after. Like, we planned everything. And by then I had gotten so many emails too, from like everyone all across the country. I want to be a part of this. This is my portrait idea. When can we do it? When can we shoot? I'm like, whoa. So it didn't take long.
Cool. I guess going from, the challenges of being in a creative, career, what has been the most rewarding so far?
I think the most rewarding is being able to, you know, being able to connect with, you know, such a large, you know, I know so many people from all over the place. And when I was touring, it, like, that sort of, like, it wasn't fancy touring. I was like bussing it, Greyhound to town, crashing couches. You can sleep on my couch. You know, I already know these people. You can sleep for however long you need. And usually I only stay a week in a city. So it was these tours that I was scheduling. So just being a part of, you know, the larger community in a unique and like really, you know, heartfelt sort of way. I have a direct relationship with the community, right, at large. And I think just a lot of the groundwork, doing all that groundwork, all that legwork, right, over the years, the absolute most beyond highlight of my career, aside from photographing Buffy singly, I wore my Buffy shirt just to sort of, you know, props to Buffy, love you, was being recognized by Canon. So I recently got sort of hired on to launch their ambassadors program, Canon Canada. So, you know, when I think back on it, you know, when I first started, I would have never imagined, you know, Canon emailing me out of the blue, you know, we're launching this program, we see you, would you like to be on board? And I was just like,
it's massive.
What? I know, I had to like pinch myself and be like, this isn't real.
Check the email to make sure it's like a legit email address.
Yeah, it's not spam. It's yeah. So that's been like one of, you know, several highlights of Redworks in my career as a photographer.
And you've already done some work with Canon, right? There was a video that was done.
Yeah, there was a team in Toronto that production unit that does like some highlight, you know, sort of profile on photographers. So they emailed, I think it was back in September last year, or I can't remember when. Yeah, like I said, time feels like one thing. And it's really interesting. Like it's both, right? It expands and it's just all condensed at the same time. So it's just, it really feels like a lifetime ago. And I don't know if it's the same for you, but this year feels like it's the longest ever, but then it's already September, almost September.
Yeah.
So yeah. But that was in September last year, I believe.
Okay. And like this upcoming ambassadorship, I guess, with Canon, like I think it's just going to expose more people to Indigenous photography, Indigenous art, Indigenous peoples. So like this is a massive thing. Like it's like.
Yeah, that's what I mean when I talk about the responsibility that comes with, you know, holding these portraits and stories, all of these stories, and doing it all proper, man. Like I want to make sure that I don't get anything wrong. I can't. That's gonna be out there, right? So I that's always stuck with me. You got to do it right. You got to do it in a good way, and you got to represent proper. Yeah.
Absolutely.
So yeah, so that's definitely recognize that.
So you had mentioned photographing Buffy, and I know that's kind of been one of your, you know, big moments kind of thing, like, you know, someone you've always wanted to photograph. Can you tell me how that kind of came to be and what it was like?
Oh my goodness, Buffy is like my all-time favorite. She is a living legend. Listening to her music, just takes me back to all these different memories growing up. But I met Buffy in Vancouver, and it was through a campaign that was launched that focused on missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls. And at the time, like before all of this, during the planning stages, this production company in Winnipeg asked me to, or emailed and said, we're interested in you to pitch, this proposal for MMIW. And he asked me when next I could be in Winnipeg. I was like, I can be there in 2 hours. I don't live that far, right?
Okay.
So we ended up meeting December 2018, I think it was. And they hadn't yet fully, developed a concept, like a specific concept for it. And he asked me if I had any ideas. So what I ended up drawing back on was this idea for a series that I had, I can't remember, years prior, right, to that moment. And the idea was, I wanted to have red shawls, a red shawl or a red blanket, that's what it was, over portraits of family members of MMIW. And I wanted them to somehow hold a placard, right? A sign that I didn't know what the sign was gonna be. And I didn't want it to be too, what's the right word? I wanted it, like I said, I wanted it to be done in a good way, But I ended up not going forward with my series idea. I just couldn't quite get it. It didn't fully come to mind at the time. So when this guy from the production company messaged, I'm like, this is the idea and this is the time. So I ended up pitching him that idea. Not pitching, he was asking me, what sort of concepts do you have in mind? And I gave it to them, and I was just like, we'll get back to you, and then we'll see. We still don't know what's gonna happen. I was like, okay, well, I'm here, I'm available. This is definitely something that's close to my heart. As is the Indigenous community, right? There's so many that have lost family members, right? And I ended up going with the crew, and they went with the concept, the idea that I had. And we traveled all over Canada for end of January, February, and mid-March. So about 3 months. Last year, I can't believe it was just last year, and I met Buffy. Buffy, I think, was one of the last photo shoots to be lined up, and it was, I love her. It was amazing to meet her, and her portraits turned out, amazing. They turned out really good. It's a campaign that I was honored to be a part of.
If you could tell your younger self, kind of like when you're first starting your career, give any advice or recommendations, what would you tell yourself?
I would say, don't hesitate, just go for it, be fearless, stay true to your vision, and just keep on going.
It's pretty straightforward.
Yeah. That's the most straightforward answer of the whole.
No, but it's good though, because we often kind of second guess ourselves ourselves, kind of what we're doing. Should I do this? Should I not? Am I good enough? So it's
Yeah.
the right thing to.
And I felt really young when I started it, when I started this work. And you're not quite sure, right? You're just not. Although I've always been the type to just go for it. But I did have some hesitation, but just put that aside and just do it. Just do it. Get out there.
It's got what you gotta do. Cool. Well, hopefully everybody that was watching this enjoyed this interview, and a big chimigwech thank you to everyone involved in getting us to do this. And yeah, it's great to have Nadia's work up in the student center. So yeah, thank you.
Miigwech.